Picture this. It is a Monday morning in San Francisco. Inside OpenAI, the company that once felt like the undisputed king of artificial intelligence, an internal message goes out. It is not a pep talk. It is an alarm. Code red. Projects are ordered to stop. Engineers are told to drop what they are doing and rush back to one thing: saving ChatGPT. In a single moment, the company that claimed to be the default interface to the future is acting like a castle under siege. This was not some vague memo about vibes. According to reporting, Sam Altman told staff that OpenAI was entering code red and that all hands had to shift toward making ChatGPT better, faster, and more reliable. Ads experiments, shopping assistants, health agents, even a personalized news tool called Pulse were suddenly negotiable. But here is the part nobody expected. For the first time, OpenAI was openly acting like it could lose. Not someday, now. To understand why this matters, rewind to 2023. ChatGPT had 100 million weekly users. GPT-4 was the benchmark everyone else chased. If you asked, what is the best model, most people had one answer. Now, that comfort margin is gone. Anthropic and Google have erased it across coding, reasoning, and search-style use cases. The victory lap has turned into a survival sprint. And in a minute, you will see why that sprint could reshape the entire AI industry, including the tools you rely on every day. Inside OpenAI, the memo felt less like a roadmap and more like a fire drill. Teams working on ad units tied to product search, autonomous shopping, and health agents, and the Pulse daily briefing tool were told to slow down or stop. Every engineer hour and every GPU cycle not directly improving speed, reliability, or personalization for ChatGPT was suddenly a luxury the company could not afford. That is a brutal shift. Those projects were classic own-the-funnel plays, designed to lock in users and monetize later. Now the priority is simpler and harsher: keep people from defecting. Why so drastic? Because the kingdom is under siege on multiple fronts. In coding, Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Opus and its successors have quietly become the default choice for power users who live in terminals and code editors. Developers post side-by-side sessions showing Claude untangling thousand-line legacy functions, generating migration plans, and editing entire repositories with fewer hallucinations. On coding leaderboards and informal GitHub tests, many now treat Anthropic as the coding model people actually use, while GPT 4.1 and 4.5 feel like they are chasing. That is OpenAI's old comfort zone, suddenly gone. Google is attacking from the other flank with Gemini DeepThink, marketed as the smartest model in the world. Long-form reasoning demos, multi-step math, dense research summaries, and chain-of-thought planning clips now circulate on social media with the same breathless tone that once belonged to early GPT-4. For years, OpenAI owned the story around reasoning and creativity, the tool you use to write the screenplay, architect the startup, or plan the research project. Now, users openly debate which model thinks best, and Gemini shows up as the new benchmark in those threads, not ChatGPT. This is not just about scores. It is about perception. Benchmark charts used to function as OpenAI's victory banners. When GPT models topped academic tests, coding challenges, and safety evaluations, developers treated that as a green light. Build on this, ship with this, bet your startup on this. Losing that clear top line, even by a few percentage points, punctures the aura of inevitability. Psychologically, the impact is immediate. Hardcore users now say Claude for code, Gemini for reasoning, ChatGPT for convenience and ecosystem. That fragmentation erodes the one-stop shop advantage that made ChatGPT feel untouchable in 2023. And this changes who gets hired, funded, and trusted next. Code red at OpenAI is not just late-night debugging. It is throwing potential revenue overboard. Experimental advertising inside ChatGPT, including sponsored product suggestions and shopping links, is now on ice. AI shopping agents, trip planners, basic health workflow helpers, and the Pulse Morning Digest are frozen too. Early testers said Pulse was a nice-to-have layered on top of a model that still sometimes hallucinates or times out. So the strategic bet is clear: trade short-term monetization for long-term survival. In a moment, we will look at why that bet is especially risky when your competitors print money without even trying. Engineers inside OpenAI are being reassigned back to basics. Their new mission is to push down response times, reduce failure rates, and close gaps in coding, math, and complex multi-step reasoning. The mandate is simple: make ChatGPT fast, accurate, and dependable before turning it into an ad network or a lifestyle app. For you, that means fewer experimental side panels and more focus on, did my prompt just work? But here is the twist. Google has already lived through its own code red, and the way it responded shows exactly how dangerous this moment is for OpenAI. When ChatGPT exploded in late 2022, Google panicked. Sundar Pichai AI reportedly called a company-wide code red, yanking research out of the lab and shoving it into Search, Chrome, Android, Workspace, and Cloud. 18 chaotic months later, Google no longer looks like the sleepy incumbent. Gemini now sits inside Google Search as AI overviews, runs on Pixel phones, and powers Google's developer stack. The company claims hundreds of millions of monthly Gemini users across products. And they got there with a ruthless playbook: collapse teams, standardize on Gemini, ship fast, even if it is messy. Remember when Google's Bard launch mistake briefly wiped $100 billion off Alphabet's market cap? Instead of retreating, Google doubled down. It fired up new generations of TPU accelerators, pushed inference into its data centers and Android devices, and used its ad and search cache machine to eat the cost of free AI features. Models became plumbing, not products. That is the key difference. Google can treat AI as a background feature everywhere. OpenAI, by contrast, has to treat AI as the product itself. And that creates a mountain of money problem. Every time you type a prompt into ChatGPT, OpenAI burns cash. Training and running models like GPT-4o and O3 Mini require thousands of GPU chips, custom networking, and power-hungry data centers that OpenAI mostly rents from Microsoft. Estimates put annual compute and operating costs in the multi-billion-dollar range without a matching profit engine. Google, meanwhile, generated roughly $120 billion in operating income in 2023 and sits on tens of billions in cash. It can fund Gemini, custom chips, and global infrastructure while barely noticing the expense. That asymmetry shows up in pricing and behavior. Google can roll Gemini models into products people already use, like Search, Chrome, Android, and Workspace, and effectively charge zero at the point of use. Advertising and data gravity subsidize the AI. OpenAI does not have a search empire, a mobile operating system, or a global ad machine. It has ChatGPT Plus, API usage, and some enterprise deals. To justify its valuation and compute bill, reports suggest OpenAI would need something like low hundreds of billions in annual revenue by the early 2030s. That is roughly 100 times growth from today. In a minute, we will look at why slowing growth makes that almost impossible. Growth curves tell the story before earnings do. Third-party analytics now show Google Gemini's user base climbing fast while ChatGPT's looks flat by comparison, a reversal of 2023 when OpenAI felt untouchable. Google executives brag about hundreds of millions of Gemini users, and leaked figures suggest usage time per user is rising, even as OpenAI's engagement cools. ChatGPT's dependence on students exposes a seasonal weakness. Every summer, traffic drops as school assignments vanish. That is a sign that many people still see it as a homework crutch, not a daily workflow tool. For a company that burns hundreds of millions of dollars a month on compute, slowing user growth is not cosmetic. OpenAI's entire valuation rests on aggressive forward curves. More users, more usage, more upsell to paid tiers, and enterprise AP is. If those curves bend downward while Google, Anthropic, and open models accelerate, investors start to question the story. Non-profitable tech companies survive on the promise that today's losses buy tomorrow's monopoly. When that monopoly looks less certain, every forecast gets repriced. This is where habits become destiny, and whoever wins your default behavior now likely owns it for a decade. Think about your own habits. When you need to search, you probably open Google without thinking. When you unlock your phone, you are locked into iOS or Android. Those defaults have lasted for more than a decade. The same thing is about to happen with AI assistants. Whoever convinces you to reflexively open one tool for coding, research, and shopping will likely own that behavior for years. OpenAI knows this. That is why code red means shelving ads, agents, and pulse to refocus on raw model quality, speed, and personalization. If ChatGPT does not become your daily starting point before Gemini, Claude, and others do, no future feature will save it. History is full of first movers who mistook momentum for immortality. BlackBerry owned over 40% of the United States smartphone market in 2010 and exited phones a few years later. Nokia held roughly 40% global share in 2008, then watched Apple and Android erase a decade of dominance in under 5 years. The pattern is brutal. Being first is not the same as staying king. A bleeding king can still rule, but only if the court believes the crown still fits. Right now, OpenAI has to prove that to developers, enterprises, and to you. So where does this leave you? If you build products, it means you can no longer assume OpenAI is the only safe bet. Multi-model strategies, where you route tasks to Claude for code, Gemini for reasoning, and ChatGPT for ecosystem, are becoming normal. If you are a student or a knowledge worker, competition means better tools and lower prices, but also more lock-in risk if one assistant becomes your everything. And if you care about jobs and power, this war decides who controls the next decade of digital work. The AI monopoly is officially dead. What replaces it is still up for grabs. OpenAI's next move is simple to describe and hard to execute: innovate or evaporate. It has to close the gap in coding and reasoning, cut latency, boost reliability, and personalize deeply enough that ChatGPT feels like the natural home screen for your brain. It must do this while renting compute from a trillion-dollar partner, facing a search giant that can underprice it forever, and an Anthropic that quietly wins the hearts of power users. The age of the untouchable AI king is over. The age of the AI arms race has begun. If you want to understand where this goes next, you cannot just watch the demos. You have to watch the panic moments, the code reds, the projects that get quietly killed so others can live. Those choices reveal who is really confident and who is scrambling. I will be breaking down the next moves from OpenAI, Google Anthropic, and the open model world as they happen. So if you want a front row seat to this power shift, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and tell me in the comments which model you actually use day to day. Your answer might be the best predictor of who wins this war.